Ball fans, we got some breaking news on today's show as the Tennessee Volunteers have officially named the five-star true freshman quarterback Faizon Brandon to be this team's starter going into week 1 against Furman. I, for one, am absolutely fired up. I'm not incredibly surprised. If you've watched this channel over the last 24 to 48 hours, we've kind of seen this coming. It's felt like a matter of when, not if, Faizon Brandon is being named as the starter, but it is official. And for the first time since 2004, you're starting a true freshman going into the season. We'll break down everything you need to know about Faizon, about this year, and about why I think this is the right decision. But real quick, this is exactly why you subscribe, because when news breaks, we've got you covered. So hit that big red sub button down below for daily Vols coverage. Also, if you're watching this right now, we're probably live chopping it up about Faizon. All right, Pete Thamel was the one who reported it earlier this morning, was on my drive into work, so press the gas pedal down a little bit harder after we got that news to get into the office. Obviously, we know that Faizon Brandon beat out George MacIntyre to win this competition. I think it's kind of unfair to GMAC for Pete Thamel saying beat out veteran George MacIntyre. Like, George MacIntyre's been on campus for a year and a half. George MacIntyre, is going into his sophomore year. Like, that's not a veteran. But anyway, today's show is not about George MacIntyre. It's about Faizon Brandon. And all that we heard through the last, or I guess first 3 weeks of fall camp was, oh my gosh, these two guys are neck and neck. Right? This is a true quarterback battle. I think coming out of the spring, a lot of people anticipated Faizon Brandon being the guy. And then George MacIntyre, I think, had a really, really good start to fall camp. But then the scrimmage rolled around 9 days ago, the first one. Not this past Saturday, but the one before that. And Faizon Brandon won the day, right? And then that following week, you started hearing from all the national analysts, right? The people who covered this sport, like the Josh Pates, J.D. Pickels, Brooks Austins of the world, saying, look, I think I'm hearing more and more buzz about Faizon Brandon. He's the guy I lean toward in this battle. Talking to some sources, that's Faizon Brandon's job. And then we had the second scrimmage that happened this past Saturday, and guess who won the day again? That's right, Faizon Brandon. Now, was it a perfect day from him? No, it was not. But he had the better day of the two guys, okay? And at the end of the day, when live bullets started flying, when you got into a scrimmage setting, when they could replicate a game-time feeling as closely as they could, he was better. He separated himself from George MacIntyre. George MacIntyre kind of fell back in to the ways of checking it down a little bit too often, holding on the ball a little bit too long, had a couple of turnovers as well, and Faizon was better. And that's what you want. You don't care about the practice guy. Those guys are very similar in practice. You want the guy that's going to be better in the game settings. Now, I don't think this means George MacIntyre will not touch the ball during Furman, okay? I very firmly believe that you are still going to see both quarterbacks on September 5th when they're inside Neyland Stadium taking on the Paladins, right? But what this gives Faizon is 2 weeks straight with the ones to rep with the number one wide receivers, number one offensive line, number one running backs, right? He has not been able to do that for this amount of time as he's going to get over the next couple of weeks, over the past 7 months. Because since he's been here, those guys have split reps. Those guys have gone back and forth and back and forth. And it's not only going to benefit Faizon Brandon, it's going to benefit everybody. This is why I was saying yesterday on the show, Saturday on the show, look, I think this decision needs to come sometime soon to get whoever the guy is, whether it be Faizon Brandon or George MacIntyre, to get that guy as much time, as many reps with this team's number one offense as possible leading into that week 1 game. But man, when it came down to nut cutting time, when it came down to live scrimmage time, Faizon elevated, made more plays, and also you didn't even have his legs as an element of that. Do you guys realize that? That's a massive, massive strength of his. And wearing that red non-contact jersey in a scrimmage, you don't get to show that off as much, okay? Faizon Brandon starting quarterback. I'm pumped about it. That was my instant reaction. Excitement, right? What was yours? Let me know down below in the comment section. We'll talk more about this decision But I do got to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks, the sponsor of today's show. If you download the app right now, you get $150 in bonus lineups. All you got to do is play your first $5 lineup and win it. And the cool thing is, the app is so easy to use. You just got to pick more or less on a few player stats and then lock in your lineup. And with that social feeds feature, you can share your prize picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. That includes me and producer Gage. So make sure you follow me on the app at jpeterson8. If you want to copy my two-pick power play for season-long projections, it's just a single click to do so. I'm taking the more on Cam Coleman, 749.5 receiving yards. Taking the more on Deshaun Bishop, 10.5 rushing touchdowns. Fade me, tail me. Just make sure it's done on Prize Picks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you want. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. Prize Picks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to join. Lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. We appreciate Prize Picks for being today's sponsor. Man, we've had this feeling for a long time, right? I tweeted this out at the very end of July before they took a snap in fall camp. I'm willing to use the G word, guaranteed, when it comes to Faizon Brandon being Tennessee's starting quarterback in 2026. It just felt like if those two guys came out of spring neck and neck, right? George MacIntyre, Faizon Brandon. And George MacIntyre had a full year's head start on him. And they're tied after the first 4 months that he's been on campus, first 3 months he's been on campus. Then if you're just taking rate of development, you know Faizon's going to be the guy. And at the end of the day, even if they were 100% tied coming out of fall camp, I feel like Faizon still would have been the guy because of what he gives you as his ceiling. All right? And this is another reason why I felt very confident in Faizon Brandon winning the job. And I've said this before on the show. I know I've put it out on social media. Look at that record. 35-1. That dude is a winner. That's part of the reason I felt so confident about him winning this quarterback battle, because that's what he does, ladies and gentlemen. The dude just wins. He makes plays. He's got a certain gene about him, right, that not everybody has. He's got it. Now you just got to hope he brings it the regular season. I'm going to talk about this in further depth on a show later today. I want to give you guys a little sneak peek, though. I think there's 5 reasons Faizon Brandon's going to be a better quarterback than Nico. Because I think that's what you're going to hear a lot is, oh my goodness, they're starting a true freshman quarterback. Get ready, again, to see what we saw with Nico Iamaleava, right? I think he's different. Number one, reason why, Jim Knowles, okay? Having to face off against Jim Knowles every single day at practice, he's a schemer, ladies and gentlemen. Every single post-snap read is different than what he shows pre-snap. That's not what Tim Banks did for Nico, right? So post-snap, mental processing, I think he's already ahead of him, right? I think the wide receiver core is better right now than what Nico had. I think the offensive line is better right now than what Nico had. I think that, when you take into account receiving tight ends, I think they're better right now than what Nico had. I just think his deep ball also is better than what Nico had as well. So, look, I know that there's going to be some people scared. The fact that he is a true freshman and, I understand that, right? That's not the craziest thing that you feel that way. But, he just beat out a guy who's been on campus for a year longer than he is. I don't think that's a mistake. I think that is anything, if anything, is showing us what kind of a competitor, what kind of a player this guy is. Will it be perfect? God, no. There are going to be so many times that you see the freshman mistakes. There are going to be so many missed throws. Okay, I'm just preparing you for that now. We got to be patient. This guy should have been at prom 5 months ago, right? But he's the right guy for the job. And now what you do is you set yourself up in the future for success. Because now you've got this guy. He's getting a full season under his belt. By the time he's starting next year, he's a sophomore. He already has a full year of SEC experience. And then when he goes back the next year, he already has 2 full years of SEC experience. Man, I think they made the right decision. I really do. If you're pumped up about Faizon Brandon being named the starter, do one big favor. Hit that thumbs up button and like today's video. That's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you're following me on social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. If you would have followed me here, you would have seen an update on it on all those platforms before we made a video, because it's a lot faster to send a tweet than it is to make a video. All right, I'm going to get out of here, but we're actually going to be back live in 12 minutes, okay? So join us Let's have a lot of fun and go Big Orange.